exit and watch the presentation in another, once it's posted, or if you would prefer not to have your camera on. Of course, most of it won't be everybody on the same screen at the same time anyway, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Also, during the times when you're not speaking, and we will have some time for Q&A, we'll do some breakout rooms, but when you're not speaking, to reduce background noise, keep yourself muted. You all, again, we've all learned some of these things, but sometimes forget, like I did, for unmuting myself. Also, for your name, I would ask that, first of all of those using my link that all say Brad Zargis, we are not trying to create some sort of, it would be actually probably utopia if they were all like me. Obviously not, but you can rename yourself. And for everybody on the meeting, I'd ask that you also rename yourself, not only with your name, but put a sport that you would like to enter into the breakout room. Okay, so one of the things we'll be doing is breaking out into individual sports, some grouping of some of the sports that are maybe a little bit smaller, and not every sport. Well, I'm assuming that not every sport will have people here that will enter those breakout rooms. But if you simply just change your name, and you can put in there, men's soccer or women's soccer or whatever sport it is that we offer, preferably the ones we offer, because I don't have a room set up for those that we don't. But certainly, again, it is a pleasure to have you here, and we look forward. Here's what we'll have on the agenda, besides a chance to hang with you a little bit in this virtual space. We're going to start off with a year in review for last year, and then we're going to enter into some updates and sort of lots of questions around what is this year like. Just like for all of us, we're wondering, how are you navigating this really odd time that we're all experiencing together, but the uniqueness of how we're doing that here at ENC and in athletics. And then we're going to hear from one of our student athletes, and look forward to hearing from Samantha Baston on the women's soccer team. Then we'll enter into some breakout rooms where you'll be with some of our coaching staff for the respective sports. And we'll look forward to probably about 15 minutes where you're asking some questions then. If you want to leave those rooms, come back and enter into a different room. If you're one of those multi-sport or multi-interested people, you certainly can do that. I'll be in the main room, if you will, and can reassign you as that time, as that time goes on. And then we'll finish up with a little bit of news about our ENC Athletic Club, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers, and we'll engage with you. So this is not a webinar format, as opposed to some of the other presentations that are really more about listening and maybe throwing into a chat room or to a Q&A session. This is hopefully going to be also interactive, but use the chat room as well. You're certainly welcome to enter in questions there, as opposed to asking them with your mic on. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and get started with the program, and I'm going to ask that Rob Rossi, our Assistant Athletic Director of Communications, launch into this first section where we do a review of last year.
Highlighted by 3 conference championships, 2 NCAA tournament appearances, and 6 major conference awards. ENC claimed the NECC Men's Champions Cup while finishing second in the Women's Champions Cup standings. The ENC women's tennis team captured its first ever Great Northeast Athletic Conference title with a hard-fought 5-4 win over top-seeded Johnson & Wales. The Lions were slated to make their NCAA tournament debut in the spring of 2020. On November 10th of 2019, Eastern Nazarene claimed a pair of conference championships as the women's volleyball team topped New England College 3-1 at home to clinch its first ever NECC crown. That evening, the men's soccer squad collected its first NECC championship with a 3-1 victory at top-seeded Leslie. The ENC men's soccer and women's volleyball teams both made their first ever trips to the NCAA tournament in the fall. The women's volleyball team stayed close to Quincy and drew nationally ranked toughs, while the men's soccer team trekked to Troy, New York to face Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in the NCAA tournament first round. The ENC women's soccer team made its second consecutive postseason appearance in the fall, while the men's cross-country team claimed second at the NECC championship meet with a strong performance by 4 all-conference runners. The Lions carried the successes of the fall right into the winter as the women's basketball team clinched the NECC regular season title and reached the NECC finals, while the men's basketball squad advanced to the NECC semifinals for the second year in a row. 26 student athletes garnered all-conference accolades to go with numerous academic honors. Men's soccer junior Charlie Swan, women's volleyball sophomore Ruth Aguilar, and women's basketball sophomore Stevie Orton were all named NECC Player of the Year for their respective sports, while women's basketball senior Jen Branham was tabbed the NECC Defensive Player of the Year. Men's golf junior Michael Dietz was named an All-America Scholar by the Golf Coaches Association of America. Christian Garcia of the men's basketball team and Dominique Santos of the softball team both received NSCA All-America honors by the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Men's soccer juniors Charlie Swan and Leon Zaffanato were each named to the United Soccer Coaches All-Region Third Team, and women's basketball sophomore Stevie Orton earned D3Hoops.com All-Region Third Team accolades. Women's volleyball senior Courtney McCarthy was selected to participate in the NEWVA Senior All-Star Classic held at ENC's Lehue Gymnasium. Head men's soccer coach Mark Bell and head women's basketball coach Sasha Santimano also voted NECC Coach of the Year. The ENC spring sport teams were all off to strong starts before the season came to an abrupt end due to COVID-19. That didn't stop the Lions from garnering individual awards as softball senior Elizabeth Schaefer was named the NECC Female Senior Student Athlete of the Year and a nominee for the NCAA Woman of the Year award. Men's tennis senior Henry Sirk was the first ever recipient of the Great Northeast Athletic Conference Man of the Year award. Out of the arena and off the field, ENC's athletic programs made impacts in the community. The women's volleyball team took a missions trip to Costa Rica during the squad's preseason, and the women's basketball team launched its Donate initiative and pledged more than $2,000 to 3 community organizations. ENC's Student Athlete Advisory Committee hosted a fun-filled day of Special Olympics Unified Basketball Games for the second straight year in early February. The event was nominated for the NCAA Division III Special Olympics Spotlight in July, and with a staggering 77% of the votes, Eastern Nazarene emerged victorious. Over the summer of 2020, ENC Athletics announced a department-wide shift to Nike, along with a partnership with Game Day Gear as the official apparel and equipment provider of the Lions. Although the fall 2020 athletic seasons were suspended, our student athletes and coaches have been hard at work in anticipation of competing during the spring semester. Our teams are eager to get back to defending the Den.
All right, thank you, Rob, for that great work. And you can imagine it was a great year and interrupted, of course, by the pandemic, and everybody shifted to the new reality that we have all shared in our various ways. But we congratulate all of our athletes and coaches on their successes individually and especially as teams. And we certainly look forward to celebrating that again at some point. And I do have to say that some of the hardest parts of not being able to finish the year come from not being able to celebrate our seniors. That's true for the entire campus, to miss out, for our seniors to miss out on their commencement exercises and graduation and all that entails, the spring sports not being able to compete. And we had some defending champions that we were looking forward to watching, but also some of those senior nights that the spring athletes didn't get. And those are missed opportunities. We did some things. The coaches did many things for their teams throughout the spring and summer. Probably one of the most active summers in that regard that probably most of our coaches have had in recent history, just staying connected to our students and the athletes on our teams. We also, in that time, had a celebration during the late spring, early summer of our athletes, and recognized many of the things that were mentioned here and even more. And so thank you to all of our staff and to our athletes for their resilience during this time. I want to, before we move into hearing from Tony Kabilian about what's happening right now, let me reiterate on your name. If you go to the upper right-hand side of your screen, by the way, our coaches, you don't need to do this. I think I know which rooms you're going to, but for all of our guests, upper right-hand part of your screen, there's a drop-down menu that's set, and then on that menu, it should say rename. Just in there, somehow include some indication of what room you'd like to go into, what sport that you're interested in. And again, you can come back to the main room and I can reassign you if you'd like to hear from some others, but that'll just help us to properly place you into the rooms that we have created when that time comes. So at this point, I'd ask Tony Kabilian, to our Associate Athletic Director, to share a little bit about the journey to get back to campus with our students and our student athletes. Tony's involvement in all of this has been enormous, particularly because of her medical expertise as our head athletic trainer, and but also the administration that has gone into this, and maybe a little bit of updates about what has happened so far this fall.
Thank you, Brad. So I'm Tony Kabilian. I'm just going to give you a snapshot of kind of what's been happening in the fall. But before I start that, I have to give updates frequently in our meetings. And one thing I say in all these meetings, and they don't actually get to hear it, but the coaches are in this meeting, is how proud and thankful I am for our coaches and our whole athletic department staff in general. They've put a lot of time and energy into organizing a safe but effective practice environment for our students. The concept of physical distancing is hard for all of us, but especially provides a huge obstacle when we talk about drafting a practice plan, especially in those first few weeks. So I just want to give them so much credit for being creative, while at the same time being mindful of all of our health and safety standards that we put into place. So they don't actually get to hear me say that, but I do say that in our updates in our campus meetings all the time. So we started the year providing general workouts for our students when they arrived on campus. We let them get settled for about a week or so, and then for the first 2 weeks, we provided these on Bradley Field general conditioning sessions. Regardless of sport, we had all of our students physically distant, but on the field. Special credit goes out to Kylie Waldroop and Katie Montalvo. They did a phenomenal job of leading and tracking these for our department. It was a great collaborative effort with all of our coaches supervising. The workouts were really fun. It was amazing to hear the enthusiasm from our athletes. And you don't usually say that, they're running up and down the field doing burpees and push-ups, and they were excited to be there. So it was, after such a long break, it was so awesome to hear them being excited to be there, being involved, and our coaches being involved. So that was exciting. And these workouts were a great precursor to what will eventually have become our coach-led practices. But they provide an opportunity for our students to safely begin training their bodies again after such a long break. And important to me in general, our whole department, is it also provided a place where they could safely train and get their body ready so they wouldn't get injured once practices started. And I believe we did a pretty successful job with that. We've really minimized the nagging things that you see. Following those 2 weeks of practice on the field, we went into what we called pods. And these were, the coaches were able to lead practice, but their groupings couldn't be more than 10 people. This was for contact tracing in case we had any issues, which we did not, we're happy to say. And then finally, we just recently moved into full team practicing, while also we're still maintaining sanitizing, masking, and other safety standards. We are progressing our athletes safely in a very coordinated effort, and I am very confident to say that the athletes will be ready once competitions resume, and we would be so pumped when that happens. Along those same lines, our athletic department, we meet regularly with our athletic conference. We continually are discussing the NCAA recommendations, as well as potential scheduling for what could be a very, very busy spring we would be very excited for. And just like our athletes, our athletic department will be ready for whatever the spring brings. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Brad. Brad, you're on mute.
Most of my meetings, I don't unmute myself or mute myself, which I probably should get in the habit of doing so that people don't have to listen to me. But thank you, Tony, the great updates. Thank you to you for all your immense efforts. And I think in some ways, probably in reverse of your recognition of our coaches and making sure that they know how much you appreciate them and brag about them in the various meetings that you're in, and deservedly so. It's important that we also recognize that you also are our governor in many ways on making sure that we're doing this wisely. We want to make sure that, especially as a significant portion of our campus, roughly probably about 60% of our residential students in this fall are athletes. Some of our athletes are also taking courses remotely. We're expecting some of them to come back. Of course, we're expecting all of them to come back in the spring if we are entering into that next phase of training and competition. But it has been good for us to also have that medical expertise that you and Katie provide to us, even when it sometimes is frustrating. You know that, we know that, because we want to go, full speed ahead, and that would be the unwise choice. And so, thank you for that. We are in that time right now where we're starting to see, particularly on campus here and other campuses, planning what's going to happen in the spring. We've seen a little bit of that with some Division III conferences, one Division III conference here in New England that has indicated that their winter sports are not going to be sponsored by their conference. But it's also a conference that probably they're in a little different position than most schools are, in that they're sort of known as the potted ivies, and they have other ways that they can continue on. But at the same time, most of the conferences, if not all the rest of the conferences, are bullish about the spring. I've been using that term a little bit more, just thinking we have an exciting time coming up. We see it in the activity of our athletes and our coaches now. It's a joy for me to be able to listen to and observe our teams out there practicing, masked up. Important, obviously, part of that, right? I have my mask that we use other than when a closed door in a private space. But during those workouts, it's not fun, but it is exciting for them to be able to be active and move to that next level. When we come back in the spring, it'll be a whirlwind. At this point, our plans are that every team will have a schedule. The fall sports, their national tournaments have been canceled, but we're looking to have a schedule for them, probably within the conference primarily, that would result in, at this point in time, our expectation is some sort of conference tournament championship event. The winter and spring sports are still on for the national tournaments. So our basketball teams will come back in January and begin their season later than normal, but they will get through probably about 15 games is what we're shooting for, somewhere in that neighborhood. Normally it would be closer to 25 just because of the truncated season. And hopefully both our women's team was the regular season champion this past year and lost a heartbreaker in the championship game. We hope that they're going to be right back in that same spot. Our men's team was in the semifinal game and lost by 4 points in the semifinal of the conference, and we hope that they get beyond that and get to that next level of playing for a championship. And then our spring sports, of course, we really have been focused on how do we make sure as much as possible that our spring sports get a chance to come back onto the field or the court or the track. And right now we're planning on that being an exciting time to restart those sports again. It'll be crazy. It'll be overlapping seasons. We'll have soccer playing at times that they've never played before, and trying to figure out what that means in terms of our schedule. The logistics of it are going to be a little bit of the challenge, but it's actually exciting to think about that from an administrator standpoint. So how do we do this? And again, thanks to all of our staff and our athletes for their attentiveness to trying to get ready for that as well. Even this fall, we've been talking about lay the foundation this fall, because our successful fall will actually result in the ability to execute a spring. And so thanks again to all of you. So at this time, we want to hear from one of our student athletes. Samantha is a member of the women's soccer team, and perhaps some of you have heard from her. I think she shared in another venue with some folks, but great story, and really an incredible representative of our students and our student athletes. So at this time, Samantha, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here and giving me this opportunity. So, like as stated, I'm a member of the women's soccer team here at ENC, and so my journey here was probably like kind of a crazy one. When I graduated high school in 2018, like any like regular student, I was looking to attend a four-year university, far away from home, like all those kinds of things, and I actually, like, plans changed, and I ended up going to a junior college out of Brockton, Mass. It's called Massasoit Community College, and I got a great start there. And I selected a junior college for a variety of reasons, cost effective, and I knew that I wanted to play soccer in college, but I didn't know if it was something that I would necessarily like succeed at. So it was like a great little stepping stone for me. And my first semester there was great. Like I played on the soccer team, we were really successful. And then as things kind of started to go into the second semester, I realized that, maybe this wasn't the kind of environment or the kind of atmosphere that I really wanted. And so I was actually friends, and I'm still friends with a couple of the guys who were on the men's team at Massasoit. And a lot of them were being recruited to come play at this small little school out of Quincy, Mass called ENC. And I was looking to transfer already. I knew that I didn't want to be at Massasoit anymore. And one of my friends was like, I'm going for a visit to meet with some of the soccer coaches. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, why not? I need to start looking for schools to go to anyways. And when I got there, the atmosphere it just felt right. I don't really know how to explain it, but the coaches who I met with, like I said, were the men's soccer coaches, and they actually took interest in me, even though I wasn't really looking at the school yet, and I technically wasn't even going to be one of their players. So that was really important to me, that I kind of had this sense of importance and I wasn't really part of the community yet. Something that I really lacked at Massasoit was I felt like I was kind of part of like a collective mass. There was really no individuality to me. So I was really looking to be part of a community that appreciated who I was in a sense. So next thing I knew, my information was passed on to the women's soccer coaches here, and one thing led to another, and we started talking, and I met some of the girls here who were absolutely great, and I just knew that I had to come here obviously for soccer, but also academically. It made sense for my major. I'm an environmental science major, and my advisor here is great, and I'm really looking forward to pursuing whatever I have left here at ENC. And playing soccer is something that's incredibly important to me. Growing up, it's always been part of my life long. And I think I realized how important it was, like my senior year of high school, when I realized that it was probably going to come to an end soon. And being able to continue that at an upper level now at a four-year university or school is actually an incredible honor, and it's something that I don't take lightly. And being able to balance the athletics and the academics and the relationships that I have here is manageable, and I think it's going pretty well. But I'm really grateful for my coaches, in particular, Coach Esther and Coach Will. They're my coaches, and I have so much respect for them, but also at the same time, I can also be friends with them. And that's something that I've never really had anywhere that I played before. And that's something that I absolutely love about, the athletic department here in general, ENC, but specifically my coaches too, and my teammates. So that's really my story of how I got here and how it's going so far. So, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing with us. And we will look forward to being able to get back out there on the pitch, as those people who are soccer people say. I don't really know what that means or where that stems from, other than someplace over in Europe, but it is great to have you here and your teammates. It's fun to go through this journey with you. So at this time, we're going to enter into some breakout rooms. There are still a few people that I don't know where to assign, but I'm going to open the rooms at this point, and we're gonna set those excuse me, set those for about 15 minutes. And there'll be a countdown that comes that will close the breakout room, give you a minute warning in advance to close the room and come back. But again, you can return back to the main session here with me and be reassigned if you'd like to enter into another room during that time. If you get bored with the people who are in that room, or you're a multi-sport person, you want to hear from different folks. So I'm going to open those rooms now. We'll see you in about 15 minutes. Okay, and for those who remain, I just need to know where you'd like to, which room, which sport you'd like to enter into, and I can go ahead and assign those. So looking at my screen, Rob, I did assign you to men's soccer, but I see that you haven't gone yet. Floor, which room would you like to go to?
Baseball.
Baseball, okay. Get that done right now. Okay, and Chuck and Doris, Gailey, was there a room that you would like to enter into? How about Don Kaufman? Is there a room that you prefer?
Let's go to baseball.
Baseball it is. CJ? CJ, do you have a preference on what room you would like to join? And there is one that has a phone number, 617-957 and following. Is there a room that you would prefer to go to? You can stay with me and hang. I mean, that's perfectly fine. All right. Well, once again, I'll try to go through. Now, Ann, I was going to put you in with tennis, as you were a tennis superstar, but do you have a preference on where you'd like to go?
Yeah, anybody in there?
You want to go to tennis?
Sure,
I don't know
sure,
if
that's
there's
fine.
anybody else in there, so you can represent the tennis alumni.
Perfect.
Actually, Kylie just came back to us here.
Yeah, I chilled out for 2 minutes and then decided to join you.
Not a lot of the cross-country track and field obvious event, but.
No.
TJ, you're probably staying at home here, but we can always put you into men's basketball if you'd like.
Brad, it's Freddie. Can you put me in the soccer one?
Oh, is that the 617?
I don't know.
Oh, it says Brad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was afraid I was assigning that Brad to. Yes, you should be in that one here. There you go. Okay, let's see. Here. So once again, Chuck and Doris, if you have a preference on where you'd like to go, if not, perhaps we can have some conversation. And again, there is a phone number for the name, and the phone number is 617-957-5251. And if you would like to be into one of the breakout rooms, that would be great. So, Kylie, how are workouts going for you all?
For cross country?
Yeah.
Great. We just bought some night running gear for safety. So all the kids got to wear that last night, and I think they thought it was kind of fun. So.
Well, you know, I was thinking about that actually last night because when I left the office and it was, you know, somewhat dark. It was a little before 7, and it was quite dark. And I was thinking, well, normally that would have actually been the last day of the season, right? That Friday event that we normally do, not the last day because we would do the conference meet after that, but the last sort of regular meet that would be scheduled, we usually do on that Friday afternoon over at Franklin Park.
Uh-huh. Yep. And later practice times, but I think they had fun with it. They'll enjoy it, I hope.
So again, one of the things, and this is obviously I'm interviewing a little bit because perhaps Chuck and Doris and our mystery guest on the 617 phone is they might be interested. We brought you in. You came last year. You were in a part-time capacity, strength and conditioning, as well as coaching cross country and track and field. So pretty heavy lifting. Talk a little bit about the strength and conditioning side, because that's obviously been an exciting addition to how we're providing for our athletes from a competitive standpoint, but also from a health and safety standpoint regarding their bodies being prepared for the rigors of athletics.
Yeah, so obviously this year looks a lot different due to COVID, and there's a lot of limitations of what we can do. But last year, we made it a priority to get specifically out of season teams or off season teams in the weight room with me, because they couldn't necessarily work with their coaches due to NCAA regulations. So they would work with me and we would do just baseline strength, trying to build not just strength, but also confidence in the athletes for the movements and activities that they'll be doing in practice and in games, to strengthen them and also help with preventative things such as preventing different injuries or preventing their bodies from being in different positions that are unhealthy or unsafe. So those were our biggest goals, just to try to strengthen, build confidence in the athletes, and then prevent injuries.
What are some of the ways that you've adjusted for during this COVID time? We haven't opened up our workout rooms yet because there are limitations here in the state of Massachusetts, and the space there is quite limited. We can get, maybe a small group in there normally, right? 10 to 12 is packing it out a little bit. Now we wouldn't be able to put that many in because the space is not large enough for that quantity of people. What are some ways that you've adjusted how you're approaching that, and perhaps how you're supplementing the work of the coaches in particular? I see you often at the beginning and end of practices doing things as well.
Yeah, so I'll often, if I'm going to join a practice that a coach is at, I will go at the beginning and help warm them up, or at the end of practice, and we'll do some sort of short conditioning session or body weight or limited equipment exercises, just due to the nature of having to sanitize everything and the process of using shared equipment. So I'll do a lot of things with resistance bands and medicine balls, and then body weight. So that's what I'll do with athletes that are with their coaches. And then if they're not with their coaches, we have them go to the local YMCA, which all the students have a membership to. And I have created workout plans for the athletes to do at the YMCA, which is awesome for them because they can still have access to weight training equipment, but not necessarily on campus, but there are still a lot of options for them there. And it's also being sanitized and cleaned there, and they're being monitored there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they've taken a lot of precautions as well to try to be open, at least in the capacities that they can. I don't think that they have yet opened up for general use their courts or the turf field, but we've talked about, like, maybe even some of our students could go over there and use that space. But one of the the advantages, as you mentioned, is that our students all have that membership to the Y, which is unlike any Y that I ever remember seeing growing up. It's literally a multi-million-dollar, $30 million building with 2 pools and indoor turf field that's like hockey grade boards all the way around, and 2 basketball courts that can be split into different things. But what's most impressive is when you go upstairs and you see their fitness area, their weight training area, the various rooms that they have for their Zumba classes or whatever else they're offering. So I know that that has been a good, at least at this point, has been a good substitute for our, for our students and our student athletes to be able to at least have a space to go to. So very good. Well, Jillian, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm doing. How are you?
Do I need to assign you here to women's volleyball, or did it?
I did. I went to women's volleyball.
Okay.
Derek is in there with Linda Russell, who happens to be joining us from Armenia, which I think is actually a really brilliant piece to add possibly to the ENC magazine.
Absolutely.
We are completely boundary-less right now, so that's great.
Well, we've talked a lot about that. Like, okay, when this is all over, this whole pandemic thing is over, what are the things that we can continue to do? Not that we want to do virtual events as a norm, but it's a great substitute for connecting with people who otherwise wouldn't be able to attend a homecoming or some of the other events.
Sure.
I think about that from the enrollment side, and my other hat that I wear, that we need to continue to be able to connect with people that live further away, that are international students, and even just to connect with parents at times when they can't make the journey to campus, but we can tie the strings together and connect virtually. So that's a great story. So definitely something to add to the mix in terms of talking about that. And I think right now she has to be the winner, the front runner for the person who joined from the furthest away, right?
Yes, yes.
From the convenience of whatever place that she's contacting us from, probably at this hour of the, well, I guess that
It's the evening. She said it was 7 p.m. So pretty great stuff.
Now, do you know what is she in? You said Armenia.
She is working with the CIS. So she's been in Russia and Armenia for many years, she said. She originally graduated and was an education major, worked in education for a while, and then began working in missions for the Nazarene.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Great to have her in. And so obviously she was a volleyball player.
Yeah,
that's the
from the
reason.
70s.
So some of those great teams of the 70s that I think we've tried to recognize as many of the individuals and teams as we can in our Bradley Hall of Fame, but there were so many good ones. It's hard to get them all.
Yep. She was on, she said she played from 74 to 78 with Coach D, and was on that team that clinched a championship with Brenda Henley and Donna Brickley and Jen Beck.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, very good. We got about a couple minutes left in those breakout rooms, and then people will come back to join us for our last couple of parts. But again, although I haven't been able to hear from Chuck and Doris, it's great to have you here. Thanks for your great support to ENC over the years and also to athletics. So the session last night, I was able to be on for about 45 minutes or so. Really enjoyed it. But then Thursday nights, I have a standing meeting that I have, and jumped off. But then I heard that there was some fantastic finish to that with the stories about why ENC and why students should be looking at ENC and all of that. I don't know if you were able to be on that, Jillian, but I need to get that section of that presentation or that event so that we can find a way to repackage that for our recruiting efforts. It sounded very, very strong.
Yes, yes. Good stuff. Lots of just staying relevant, thinking about the future. What can we do to move from a hidden gem to a gem? Jan's always great about just connecting the mission with students and with purpose moving forward. So really good stuff. We were able to record the ending, so I think we can somehow package that for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Every little touch like that, but I really enjoyed hearing from all of them and thought the same thing of the faculty member, Coleman. I can't remember his first name for some reason, but
Sean,
yes. But just even getting a chance to say, hear from him and all that was a lot of fun as well, because you don't, a lot of times, particularly with those that are not full-time on campus, you don't get to meet them. And what a great member of our team, if you will, our faculty, working with our students that are in those pre-law programs. So that was fun. All of them were, but it was nice to meet virtually somebody that otherwise I probably wouldn't have connected with. So, all right, we got folks heading back in. Hopefully we didn't lose too many along the way. Hopefully our coaches didn't scare them away in those rooms that had folks. I know each room sort of was a small spat, and we spread you all out. We should have probably grouped it like all the fall sports, all the winter sports, all the spring sports, but hopefully you had a chance to connect a little bit there as well. I think everyone is back in again at this point. So thank you. We got a few more. Looks like we had a couple of carriers. I jumped the gun on that. So our rooms are all empty now, I think. So again, hopefully you had a good time. We had a good chat here in the main session with some folks, particularly with Kylie Waldrup, who not only is cross-country track and field, but also strength and conditioning coach, which is a position we added last year. And she has been a great addition to what we are doing for our athletes, not only for their, they're raising their level of competitiveness, but also their health and safety. They're preparing their bodies for the rigors of sport. I know in talking about that position for a few years with Tony, the idea of how that complements the work of our athletic training staff as something that can be used in a preventative way, not just after an injury occurs, but even the strength that comes after when the rehab begins, even if it's a mild injury, their body is more prepared for recovery. So we had a good conversation here, and then I think I have to bring recognition because Jillian mentioned it. Linda Russell, it is a pleasure to have you here. I was saying to Jillian, I don't know all the people that were on the session last night, but I'm assuming that you have to be the front runner for the person who has joined from the furthest away. Can you just give us a quick update on where you are? And again, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. I'm coming in from Yerevan, Armenia, and I want to take the opportunity. A lot of the other times are like 2 and 3 in the morning, and this was the one that was at 7 at night that I could connect to. I was hoping to see some friends.
Yeah. Well, and you were a member of the 74 to 78. I'm just taking this from Jillian, so don't make it seem like I knew all this in advance.
No, I understand.
Be disingenuous, but Jillian was sharing about that, some of the fantastic teams, and I see some of the other folks that are in this that were actually from the 70s. I think of a Steve Schaff probably remembers some of those teams, and others that were here during that time. And so again, welcome to all of you. But again, if we had a prize, which we probably need to figure out how to send you something, you right now are definitely the winner of that. So. At this time, I'd like to introduce Derek Schmidt. Derek is not only our women's and men's volleyball coach, but he also is working as an assistant athletic director, particularly with the areas of external and alumni relations. And he wants to share, asked him to share a little bit very briefly about our ENC Athletic Club. Don't worry, we're not making an ask today, but if you want to give, you can. But we want to let you know that there is a way to provide some support to the athletic department or to the individual teams.
Great to be here and to have some alum here. I am a proud alum as well, and so it's exciting for me to be back here at ENC, working with the volleyball programs, working in athletics. You know, my family, going back to my dad playing basketball in the late 60s for Coach Brad, has been very involved in athletics here, and so it's good to be a part of that now. And with a lot of exciting things going on, and just really wanted to quickly just share with everybody the opportunity to be involved at some point with the athletic club. And really there's a couple of ways that you can be involved. One of them, many people are involved in, that's to support specific sport, probably the sport that you played while you were at ENC. But to support that, that's what helps pay for things like the mission trip that we took to Costa Rica last August, and for other opportunities like that to do things and to travel. And a lot of teams have gone places to play, and hopefully we'll get back to being able to do that in the future. And so just supporting your program or supporting a program or multiple programs is an opportunity. And then obviously the other way is to help out athletics in general. And that's where we, you know, look to facility upgrades and to try to improve some of the things that we have here, or to add things to our facilities, just to be able to make the experience as best as possible for the student athletes. And that's really what we're trying to do here. Our core values are centered around the word excellence. And so we really strive to be excellent in everything we do and excellent in everything we provide. And so, and it's great to have alumni involved. And like I said, it's great for me being an alum to be involved, and hope to have many alumni involved with us as we move forward into the upcoming season and beyond.
Very good. Well, thank you, Derek. And along those lines, just, you know, the opportunity to partner with particularly our coaches and the athletes in the various ways that they're expressing their passion for their sport, but also their love for ENC. And we often talk about this journey that we want to see our students, many of our student athletes, and this is to be expected and actually is very normal. Many of our student athletes arrive to the campus, and if you ask them the question, tell me about yourself, describe yourself, what's your identity? They often would identify first as an athlete. They would say, I am a soccer player, I am a volleyball player, I am whatever their sport might be, and then other things. And what we talk about is that during their journey here, what we want to be able to say is, say a freshman comes in, and that is very common for them to describe themselves in part, and maybe often first, by their sport. By the time they're a senior and you ask them the same question, we hope that that's still a part of their identity, but it is not really the first thing. They would identify by the academic program that they're studying, or perhaps the career they hope to pursue, or the graduate school they hope to get admitted to, or the work that they are planning to do in community, you know, service or what have you. And that's that sort of subjective or qualitative way that we evaluate the educational value of athletics. And we know that that their identity in sport is important, and we don't want that to end even after they get done. Many of you would probably still describe yourselves, if you were former athletes, in some capacity as I was. Some of you might even still be very good athletically, but many of you would describe yourself as, at one point, I was a baseball player. I look at Jesse Kassler and think, you know, that's something that that's still probably, you probably still try to get out there and do some things, but maybe not at the same level you once did. So we do value your partnership in that way, and in all of the many ways that you have been doing that over the years. And I have counted it a blessing to hear the stories. For those of you that I haven't had a chance to connect with, I look forward to doing that in the coming days. So at this time, sort of as we close up, we have a few more minutes here to just see if you have any questions for the group as a whole, for me, for any of our staff. And as much as possible, I'm going to try to deflect it to our staff, because I think that hearing from them and in this venue, I think is really good for you all, as well as for them to be able to have a venue for them to be able to express themselves. So I'm somewhat kidding, but I will probably deflect if I can. So anybody have a question, just unmute and go ahead and shoot away.
Hey, Brad. Hey, we talked about this in the baseball group, but and you know, you and I have talked about this too, but I would love to keep thinking about ways we can deputize alumni to be scouts for ENC athletics, and how can we identify people in our areas that would be great student athletes for ENC and connect them to the right coaches and admissions folks.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll take that. I just wrote that note down, that I know we're doing a lot more intentionally with the in the enrollment area, trying to get our alumni network sort of, you say deputized, I was going to say mobilized early in the process, where they're making connections, maybe at some point even hosting events when that time becomes possible to really do things in person. But I think it's specifically this very important subset of our overall recruitment strategy, roughly around 40 to 50% of our students that are coming to ENC are athletes, and to take an intentional approach of identifying. We talked about that just, what day was that this week? It all runs together. Wednesday, I think we had a meeting we were really hammering in on, and the recruiting process. And one of the first things we talked about is lead generation is number one, and referrals are always the strongest of those leads. They yield at the highest rate. So that's, we will take that up, and maybe we'll connect with you, Jesse, and as somebody who can help us think that through even more thoroughly.
I'd love to help.
Any other questions or comments, as Jesse had?
Hey, Brad, it's
Steve.
Steve Yurden. Can you update us on is it lacrosse? Are you starting the lacrosse program?
We are. I was looking to see, I think Alex was on at the very beginning, but we have hired a graduate assistant who essentially is a recruiting coordinator, doing the recruiting for, at this point, a lot of that is lead generation for both men's and women's lacrosse. We did I would say we attempted to try to do that last year, but about, if you remember, about 6 weeks into the journey, we started that in January, which was probably too late to begin with. But then when 6 weeks later, or whatever it was, 8 weeks later, everything shut down and there were no spring seasons, a lot of our desire to recruit lacrosse really, it probably became secondary to the other crisis mode that we entered into, and it also limited our ability to connect high schools and travel clubs in lacrosse. So we have started that process. I know, Chris, you're here, Chris Shank. Chris Shank is not only our head baseball coach, but he's also our athletic recruiting liaison. And I know that you meet with Alex on a regular basis. Maybe you have an update about some of the progress that's been made so far in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brad. So Alex is a great guy. Been here for a little while now, and really just trying to assist him generate some leads. I don't know anything about lacrosse, but I'm fairly familiar with the recruiting process. So he's kind of taking the lead on identifying players and talent. And I'm just trying to kind of be a liaison and an asset for him to, bounce questions off of, kind of formulate a game plan moving forward, as far as just where he's going, how he's connecting with, resources that he has to identify potential leads right now. And, Brad talks about it a lot, but we are trying to cast a really large net right now to build rosters. And, that is a little bit of a daunting task, but, we're hopeful that by meeting together, we typically meet 2 to 3 times a week and just have some good discussion about his next steps and where he's going and where he's recruiting and the follow-up process and getting student athletes on campus and touring them and kind of moving them down in the funnel here a little bit too. So, I think it's going really well. We're going to keep pushing. I certainly want to get those programs off the ground and into varsity status as soon as possible. And, he's doing a great job right now.
And there's also some interest, there also is existing interest on campus, including those who are not at this time participating in our sports, as well as some of our athletes who might be interested in a second sport that sometimes can be challenging depending on the conflict with the overlap of seasons. But generally speaking, there will be, we don't need to get a full roster of new, although that would be wonderful if we had 25 women and 25 men that all arrived here in the fall and, added to the numbers. But the reality is we're shooting for somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 men and 10 women, because we do know that the recruiting of the men's side is larger, and the rosters on the men's teams tend to be larger as well, because there's more shift change type of approach on the men's side because of the physical nature of the sport. Got time probably for a couple more questions before we hit that noon. I don't have to run out to anything, but I want to be sensitive to the time in terms of like an official closing. But
That's Stafford, Frederick.
Stafford, good to see you.
Have you had a meeting together with all of your staff and just simply allow everybody to talk about what this loss of being able to get the teams together, this loss of being able to put a specific date on hey, we can start practice. Have you talked together about that?
Yeah, we were meeting, I don't know, we started probably midsummer, meeting every Monday for sort of updates. The hardest part, and now Tony and I are in that NECC conference meeting on a regular basis, almost weekly. And the hardest part is that it often, I feel like there's a million questions and 1,000,001 non-answers. It's so much is uncertain that is part of the loss, right? Even if we had clear direction about what it was going to be like, then you can sort of formulate a plan around that, particularly for our type A personalities that tend to be coaches in sports. But yeah, we have, and I think more than anything, we've really wanted to come alongside of our athletes in that same way now that we're back together, or even for the ones who are still remote. Many of our international students remained in their homes, in their home countries. Some of our student athletes decided not to come back to campus because they knew it was going to be only practices and competitions. But we really, both for our staff, I mean, I'm certainly no counselor, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I won't even pretend to be. But we've commiserated together probably more than anything is how difficult this is for us individually, but also collectively with our athletes. But
good. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe one more official, and then again, I would say maybe I'll do a closing, and then basically what I would just again reiterate on behalf of our staff is so thankful for you to participate with us in this way. Hopefully next year for homecoming, maybe we make this an annual event somehow. We have that great event on Saturday mornings when we do our Hall of Fame induction, but perhaps some other casual setting like this, not virtually, but maybe. That way we can have the Linda Russells of our history still join us, even if they can't be here in person. But thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for your support of us individually. Thank you for your love for ENC. And, athletics is really, really meaningful to us. As you can imagine, we invest our energies into this because we value and believe that athletics can be a transformational experience for our athletes. I know in my own life, it has informed my life more than anything other than being married and being a father. And in some ways, it runs parallel to that in many of the lessons that I learned personally, spiritually, educational benefits that I derived from my athletic experience as both an athlete and a coach. And so thank you for your support. We'll look forward to hopefully this spring. You'll be able to watch our contests. I don't know if we'll be allowed to have in-person fans, but we will continue to broadcast those games, and Rob Rossi and our great team getting those online, as many of those games as we possibly can. We might end up having 4 or 5 contests on a day, and Tony's going to cover every one of them on the same day. She's got a smile on her face and probably inside thinking, wait till I get a hold of you. But it's great to have you here. I'm going to stay on. I'm happy to be here with you, but don't hesitate if you need to head out and get to the next thing on your calendar. If you have more questions, feel free to unmute and shoot them off. Matt, good to see you again. We need to get together. I know we haven't connected, like most of us haven't connected, but good to see you.
I just wanted to, I'm Matt Carpenter, and as you know, I work at the Boston Marathon, and I just want to pledge to you all that I'd like to offer the athletic department one of my entries into the Boston Marathon in 2022. 2021 is already booked up, but that could be used for fundraising. I know the minimum requirement, like for the Jimmy Fund or Dana-Farber, when they get these entries, is $10,000. I'm not suggesting you go that high, but I'll donate that entry, and then you can decide how to get somebody to take the entry and commit to fundraising for that, and it might be effective.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, for that. And I was thinking that you were going to suggest that I run on behalf of the college, and that was.
Well, unfortunately, you have to finish within 6 hours, and we wouldn't have 3 days to do that. They take down the finish line in the evening.
What is it, 26.2? I don't know if 3 days would be enough right now, but maybe I need to take that challenge. Scott, you're going to say something snarky.
I want to nominate Derek. He's well on his way to getting there.
He has done fantastic in getting on the treadmill regularly.
Yeah, noon ball every day, full court, one on. Yeah, that's part of my training regiment.
Did we have a winner from noon ball this past week, by the way?
Well, we had 2-on-2, and we had 2-on-2. Yeah, the upstairs women's soccer office beat the downstairs volleyball strength and conditioning office.
Okay, all right, it's on.
Yeah.
Scott's heading out here. He's got to get his practice plan written.
Oops, I got to go meet a recruit.
Even better. Well, I don't know if it's better, but equally as good. So, well, again, thank you for being.
I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, Alfonso, thank you. So, Stafford, how are you doing? Things going okay for you?
Yes, I'm blessed, doing great.
Yeah.
No
Good.
complaints.
Miss
Yeah,
having you on campus during this time. It's always a blessing when you're able to be here with us during the homecoming events. And you know.
I know we were planning to be up there this weekend, but
yeah.
Yep.
Next year, put it on your calendar, whatever the date
That's
is.
it. That's right. Well, when the calendar gets here, we'll say we're going to Boston. That's right.
And Starlene, I don't have a picture here, but I'm trying to remember if we have met before. And want to just say thank you again for being a part of this event. All right. Well, thank you all. I think it's probably time for us to hit the next thing, whatever that might be. Maybe it's lunch for some of us, at least locally. And wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Matt.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
And thanks, TJ and Rob, for your work on the technical side of things. Appreciate your taking care of all that, because I was realizing, especially because I'm in a different location and I don't have my normal multi-screen setup, that I'm like, I can't see all the things that I see. So thank you. All right, I'm going to step out. See you guys.
See you. Okay.
Later.
Bye.